Thank you for pressing play. Your presence here brings joy to my heart. Welcome to our channel, where today's focus is all about Herlock Sholmes' Ace Attorney. Let's get started. Herlock Sholmes, known as in the original Japanese language versions, is a fictional private detective in Capcom's Ace Attorney video game series, based on Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle and named in tribute to Arsène Lupin vs. Herlock Sholmes by Maurice Leblanc in the English localization. Sholmes is featured as a supporting character in the two games of the spin-off prequel series The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, consisting of adventures and resolve. The character has also appeared in the manga adaptation of the series. Let's now shift gears and explore characteristics through a critical lens, uncovering its strengths and weaknesses. Sholmes is mostly presented as an outwardly eccentric and forgetful detective who houses great intellect and deductive abilities. However, his reasoning skills are presented as being akin to a spontaneous game of logic that goes beyond the truth. Consequently, his deductions tend to consist of rapid-fire statements of abductive reasoning that, while logically sound and clever, result in an incorrect and oftentimes ridiculous-sounding conclusion. Throughout his appearances, Sholmes aids defense attorney Ryunosuke Naruhodo and his partner Sasuke Mikotoba in honing their own deductive abilities by allowing them to correct his deductions to arrive at the truth. Now, it's time to shift gears and explore concept and design. Shutakumi cited the origin of the Herlock Sholmes character as originating from a Sherlock Holmes game idea he had come up with in 2000, of a mystery game in which a detective makes incorrect deductions, and where players have to correct the detective and lead him towards the truth. Thinking it would be fun to combine this idea with Ace Attorney, Takumi pitched the idea to Capcom a few months after the Japanese release of Takumi's previous project, Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney 2012. The development team additionally decided to change Sherlock's Watson from the original, as they thought it would be more interesting if Watson weren't another English gentleman, using the original character name as a stand-in for the victim of the first case. Kazuya Nuri designed Sholmes to make him look simple while also conveying a lot of information. He intended to make the graphics look like illustrations, and wanted to convey the feeling of the materials, clothes, and items from the Victorian era in which the series is set. Characters were designed to be partially realistic, as realistic animations and facial expressions were needed for the game. Witnesses and jury members were however designed in a more stylized way, to ensure that players immediately recognize them when they see the characters sitting next to each other. Several different variations were made for Sholmes' design, including depressed, cute, adventurous, dark, and sleeping variations. Eventually, they used a variation on how Sherlock Holmes is traditionally depicted, as contrast to his personality. Additionally, he was given a gun as contrast to the sword of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. The design of Sholmes' daughter, Iris Wilson, was designed to include gothic elements, as well as elements of a mad scientist, and was created to look good when appearing together with Sholmes. Now, let's dig deeper into localization and unveil the hidden treasures it holds within. Due to long-standing copyright issues related to the character of Sherlock Holmes with the estate of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the character was renamed Herlock Sholmes for the international release in homage to Maurice Leblanc's Arsène Lupin vs. Herlock Sholmes 1908. In the original Japanese language release of The Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, Sholmes is still known as Sherlock Holmes. Other existing Holmes characters were similarly renamed in the international release, such as Dr. Watson becoming Dr. Wilson. The spotlight now falls on backstory as we delve deeper into its details. Following an exchange program established by Clint Van Zeeks, a young Herlock Sholmes befriends Japanese student Eugen Mikotoba, solving many mysteries together, with Eugen taking notes about their adventures together, which he stores in Sholmes' trunk. However, after Clint is found to be the serial killer the professor by Mikotoba's friend Genshin Asagi, who then kills him, Mikotoba is forced to return to Japan, leaving Clint's infant daughter Iris in Sholmes' care. While Iris initially believes Sholmes to be her biological father, Sholmes decides to tell Iris that his former partner is her father, not telling her his name to allow her to deduce it, which she mistakenly does to identify him as John H. Wilson. Compiling Sholmes' adventures and using John Wilson as a pen name, Iris publishes the adventures of Herlock Sholmes in the Rand's magazine, leading to Sholmes becoming recognized worldwide as a legendary detective. Over the coming years, Iris adapts her own adventures with Sholmes under the Wilson pseudonym. Sholmes eventually learns of the real Wilson's assassination in Japan by Arsène via a telegram ordering the assassination, which contains orders for Kazuma Asagi to kill Tobias Gregson, traveling under the guise of a defense attorney. Sholmes reaches out to Mikotoba and attempts to intercept Asagi on board the SS Borea, only for Asagi to apparently be killed by Nikolina Pavlova. Sholmes befriends Mikotoba's assistants Ryunosuke Naruhodo and Susato Mikotoba, the latter of whom is a fan of Iris' book displaying his famed dance of deduction. After discovering Asagi to be alive, although comatose and amnesiac, Sholmes secretly dumps his body in Hong Kong, where it disappears before it can be collected by the Japanese authorities, before obtaining political asylum for Pavlova in the United States. Upon his return to London the following month, Sholmes invites Ryunosuke and Susato to live in his attic and use it as a makeshift law office. As Ryunosuke and Susato gains more clients, Sholmes uses his dance of deduction to help the pair hone their deductive reasoning skills by allowing them to correct his purposefully incorrect assumptions. 2 months later, Sholmes learns that the reason his violin hasn't been working was that he had mistakenly taken a viola when leaving the pawn shop he had left it at, shortly after which point he meets pickpocket Gina Lestrade, whom he invites over for dinner. Later, Gina goes missing, and Sholmes goes back to the pawn shop to find her, where he is shot by the intruding Skukin brothers and hospitalized at Street Sinners Hospital. During a subsequent trial for the pawn shop owner's murder, for which Gina is accused, Sholmes escapes from the hospital and enters the courtroom disguised as a bailiff, where he delivers some vital evidence to Ryunosuke that is used to expose the true culprit. After the trial, the disguised Sholmes congratulates Gina, with neither Ryunosuke or Tobias Gregson recognizing him, to which Iris informs him that he doesn't have as much presence as he thinks he does. 6 months later, a near-bankrupt Sholmes is recruited by Esmeralda Taspels to act as a wax figure at her wax museum in order to increase falling attendance, and investigate the disappearance of the wax figure of the professor. After the wax figure is mysteriously returned in a headless state the following day, Sholmes is confronted by Ryunosuke and Susato over Asagi still being alive. While Sholmes admits his actions, he only gives a vague reasoning as to his motives. In a subsequent investigation, Sholmes manages to find the missing head alongside a bomb, which he identifies as identical to one which had exploded at the Great Exhibition, where O.D. Arsman had been murdered. At a subsequent trial, Sholmes assists Ryunosuke in exposing head coroner Courtney Scythe as the murderer. Sometime later, Sholmes decides to join the red-headed league in an attempt to earn money for rent by artificially dyeing his hair red. However, after being recognized and deducing the league to be a scam, he turns the same artists over to Scotland Yard. The following day, Sholmes is hired by Evie Vigil to find her missing husband Daly, before learning from Gina that Gregson had been murdered and Borok van Zeeks is accused of his murder. Shocked at the news, and believing the recently returned Asagi to have completed his mission, Sholmes leaves to investigate, ultimately reuniting with Mikotoba and inadvertently exposing to Iris that John Wilson isn't her father, and that Mikotoba was his partner. Identifying Judge Sishiro Jigoku as the true murderer and Chief Justice Mail Strongheart as the mastermind behind the assassination exchange, Sholmes arranges for all necessary witnesses to be present outside the court, appealing to the gallery to force the trial to continue. After Strongheart is exposed, although with no physical proof of his crime, a hologram of Sholmes appears, revealing he was at Buckingham Palace with Iris and Queen Victoria, who had been watching the trial from the beginning via his hologram broadcast system. The Queen strips Strongheart of all his powers and decrees that he will be tried for his crimes at a later date. Following Strongheart's arrest, Sholmes congratulates Ryunosuke before departing once again. That night, Sholmes catches up with Mikotoba by describing all the cases he had missed since their separation, giving Gregson's pocket watch to Gina. Iris also admits that she no longer feels the need to keep searching for her birth father, acknowledging Sholmes as the only father she ever needed. Half a week later, Sholmes says goodbye to Mikotoba, Ryunosuke, and Sasuto as they return to Japan, saying it was fun being able to work on one more case with his partner. He expresses hope to do so once again in the future, when he would eventually visit them all in Japan himself. During the credits, Sholmes shows irritation at receiving a surplus of requests for his hologram system from various parties despite the secrecy of the closed trial, and contemplates escaping to Japan until things settle down. Iris also gives him a letter thanking him for everything he has done for her, causing him to burst into tears. Let's now shift our focus to the Great Ace Attorney adventures and explore the ways in which it shapes our perspective. In the first prequel game, The Great Ace Attorney Adventures, Sholmes mentors defense attorney Ryunosuke Naruhodo and his assistant Sasuto Mikotoba following the apparent death of his friend Kazuma Asagi on a steamship, making use of joint reasoning, in which Sholmes makes quick deductions about a witness, and Ryunosuke and Sasuto point out contradictions in his theories, inspecting the witness and surroundings from various angles in order to find hidden clues that can help lead Sholmes to the proper conclusion. Upon their arrival to London, Sholmes invites Ryunosuke and Sasuto to live with him and his daughter Iris Wilson at Baker Street and set up their law office in their attic, later befriending pickpocket Gina Lestrade. Let's transition to The Great Ace Attorney 2, Resolve and uncover its significance. In the second prequel game, The Great Ace Attorney 2, Resolve, Sholmes reunites with his partner Eugen Mikotoba after they return to London from Japan, investigating a case together. Sholmes is additionally revealed to have adopted Iris, with her biological father having been the professor, an infamous serial killer whom Sholmes and Mikotoba had investigated 10 years earlier, hiding this information from her by allowing her to believe that her father was John H. Wilson, a doctor she had mistaken Mikotoba for, whom Sholmes had intended for her to see as her second father. After exposing the Red-Headed League hoax and helping Ryunosuke identify Chief Magistrate Mael Strongheart as the mastermind behind the Reaper, Sholmes uses a hologram projector he invented with Iris to broadcast the events of the trial to Queen Victoria, with whom he meets for tea, who strips Strongheart of all ranks and orders for him to be secretly prosecuted at a later date. After Ryunosuke and Sasuto return to Japan, Sholmes is overjoyed when Iris acknowledges him as her father for the first time. Brace yourself for a captivating discussion on merchandise as we explore its nuances and implications. A limited edition release of The Great Ace Attorney Adventures, sold only through Capcom's Capcom store, includes a box based on Sholmes' briefcase, Sholmes and Iris-themed plush toys, postcards, and stickers. Brace yourselves for the next chapter, where we'll be dissecting reception. Herlock Sholmes was received well by critics, especially for his comic relief throughout the series. Richard Eisenbeis at Kotaku criticized Sholmes' depiction as a crappy detective and dunce, although praising his relationship with his daughter and depiction as a far cry from the world's greatest detective you've come to know from the classic stories or popular culture. Similarly, Blake with Twinfinite praised the joint reasoning mode, in which the player must point out contradictions in the detective's deductions, and Famitsu complimented the character's unparalleled observation and deductive skills see not only the truth but sometimes go beyond the truth and become a rampage of logic. Christine Tooting of Onesports praised the unbeatable tandem and chemistry of Sholmes and Wilson, describing both as a great fit for Ace Attorney's humorous and pun-tastic naming convention. Following the announcement of the Herlock Sholmes localization in April 2021, several memes have been developed around the character and the circumstances of their renaming from Sherlock Holmes in conjunction with copyright law. Comic book resources lauded the goofy moniker of the character, complementing its fit with the comedic and sometimes irreverent tone of the Ace Attorney series, even if it does leave a few things lost in translation. If you found this video helpful, give it a like and share it with someone who might benefit from it.